who put that on there? No,
Jacques put that on there. No. That's the impression Jacques left. So let's move on. Now we're coming back to those 3 incidents, and you also said Captain Jooste will give you a breakdown of certain incidents, which is great. That's feedback. That is something that paid up members should in actual fact be notified of. No problem with that. I do have one problem with the feedback though. How do you plan for something after the fact instead of during the fact? So to give you the example, guys, am I the only one that saw this pattern? Had we known about this breaking, there are many of us with cameras in the area, we might have seen the vehicle, the grey Ford, before it got to the second location. And we could have notified the security service providers. How do I know this?
Sorry, when you're saying, I'm just missing, maybe I'm missing something here. There was this vehicle that...
let's call it location 1. I can't remember the streets.
No,
okay.
That's fine.
We got location 2 and we got location 3. I think this was Pauline Street, if I'm not mistaken. I think. But I've got the records because I'm only dealing facts. So this happens, and I'll just give times, an estimate time 1400. And the suspect vehicle is a grey Ford. Sub Rosa, on the Sub Rosa's reporting group, puts this message out at 1600. Just for argument's sake. 4 hours after the fact. Location 2, they give a report.
It's 2 hours. 2 hours, yeah. 2 hours. 14 to 16 is 2 hours,
yeah. Location 2, 14:30 incident. Also armed robbery. Grey Ford. Sub Rosa puts this out at 17:30. So what are we looking at now?
3 hours.
3 hours. 4:03. Yeah. Okay. So there's a 2 hour delay, but the actual time difference between the two is 30 minutes. That's crucial. Third incident, wherever the location was, 14:50. Grey Ford. Sub Rosa's report goes out at, just for argument's sake, 19:10. So what are we looking at here? Another 1.5 hours. So between 1400 and 19:10, we found out about 3 incidents, 30 minutes apart, 20 minutes apart. Grey Ford, Grey Ford, Grey Ford. We have a problem here. So I ask the question. So the group gets created. Towards the end of 2019, 2020, where we? 2023, 2022. So 21.
When was this? When did this take place?
About 2019.
2019.
Yeah, 2019, 2020. I was just new on service with Sub Rosa. So I asked the question, am I the only one that missed this? We got a pattern here. I'm sitting here in front of my computer. When you see my workstation, you'll see there's the cameras.
Yeah.
They could have driven past me. Then the question is, what do we do about this thing? I could have hit the panic and gone through to Sub Rosa and told them, look, that vehicle that now just hit whatever street, let's say David Street for argument's sake, has just driven past me. The response officers could have had a look at it. How do I know that this works? Gary, because I'm on 100 other groups. I'm on Gauteng emergency groups, on Gauteng security groups. We're doing it there, but we're not doing it here. And that's where I started to prompt and promote last year the entire anti-crime group. Now remember, I still don't know about the CKRF at all. I only learned about you in February when Jacques said he's like associated to you. The following day, Jacques instructed all of his response officers to leave the group. Now, what kind of message did Sub Rosa send to the community that you hold dear to heart? What message did Jacques send to the community as far as the security? But leave it at that. Now we start working the anti-crime group, and I'm encouraging people, report suspicious activity, put it on the group. At the same time, I've just completed this. I need to move on into this. I need to sit with residence forums, residence associations, block watchers, CPF, security personnel, EMS. I need to do the whole bang shoot. Everybody, I need a meeting because I need to move on to the next phase of this training. This training takes people through an entire risk analysis, risk vulnerability assessment, the whole trip, for registered CERT volunteers in order to provide assistance to local communities. Security in terms of the Disaster Management Act plays a role. I have to consider it. In terms of the Sendai framework, in 2015, they added civil unrest to the disaster management portfolio as a peril. I have to consider it. So I'm in an entire different sphere of operation and having to put up with my own security service provider, downgrading other security service providers and thereby breaking the law. Okay, now I'm telling you, I've submitted a 37-page complaint to CRA regarding Jacques Kleinhans. There are several regulations that I believe have been broken. The attack of Jacques Kleinhans in the control room on the WhatsApp group was unacceptable, where I've even had the control room phoning me and telling me to take particular posts off of the Constantia Kloof WhatsApp group for whatever reason. And I've told them they don't have the right to ask for that. It's a public forum. It's like you and I sitting here now. We're discussing, or at least I am explaining issues with Sub Rosa. Does that give the control room the right to phone you or me and tell us now to stop this discussion? The answer is no. They cannot do it, yet I'm being instructed to do it through the Constantia Kloof group and the anti-crime group. The primary school, alarm is going off. Sub Rosa's en route. Sub Rosa's on site. Everything is fine. The whole night, I can hear it from here. The alarm is going off. Eventually, I said to the group, isn't there a school rep, or do I have to go to the government levels that I'm dealing with? And yes, I am dealing with government levels as well. You might be dealing with SAPS Florida and CPF. So the end result is yes, he has a contact number. I phone the Oka, so are you? He says yes. I said, what's up with your alarm? He says, man, you know, the thing got hit by lightning. And it was that time that many residents complained about items getting hit by lightning. I said, and what are you doing about it? Sub Rosa can't repair it until next week, Thursday. This is like, I think, a Tuesday. So we got about 8 days before Sub Rosa can go and repair the alarm. Stu's living God, on Saturday, the alarm's still going off. So the call comes through again, what? The school rep sees the post, he phones me. He says, Chad, I just had a chat with Sub Rosa. We're going to turn the alarm off. And Sub Rosa is going to put a guard. I'm thinking that's good. At least now we're not going to wake up the neighbors. But now we are actually exposing the guard on his own. And I said to the rep, listen, you know, maybe we should tell the community about this. Let them be aware of the fact that there is a technical problem. Like anything else, it's called creating awareness. And if people are driving past, let them be more vigilant and keep an open eye and, you know, possibly report any other suspicious activity. And let's provide the guard with some additional backup as well. He says, I think that's a brilliant idea. Post it. So I did. That's Saturday morning. Comments are coming back. We'll keep an eye open. If we see anything, we'll pass it on. What? It's all positive, dude. P.S. I still don't know about CKRF. Tuesday morning, some oak must have been scrolling through his messages. He writes me a message. Chad, is there anything I can do to help you? No, I don't know what help he's going to offer. My thought as well, maybe the guy's prepared to go and sit in front of the school for 2 hours and eat his samis. Cool. Why not? I mean, if that's what you want to do, go for it. I don't mind. I'm not here to run the security of the area. I'm a group coordinator and vocal in terms of what I'm doing, because I've got that sharp analysis aspect behind me. And I've got a background, and I've got a history, and I've got an understanding. I can help. So I'm doing a voice note. Telephone rings, I answer. It's a control room. Demanding that I remove all of the posts off of the group about the school. I told them where they can go jump. Not 10 minutes later, Nikki phones me. Also demanding. I said, Nikki, get it into your head. What we as a community discuss has got nothing to do with him or you. At all. We could have been meeting in Spa while buying bread and discussing this. You've got no right to tell us we cannot discuss the issues at the school, whatever the issues are. That is what freedom of expression is all about. So eventually she put the phone down. About half an hour later, I get a telephone call from the rep. She's Chad, I don't know what's happening. Sub-Rosa's on their way here now. They're going to replace the control board in the next 30 minutes. You know, my first reaction was, they wanted to keep the guard there until Thursday, just before the Easter weekend. And then only pitch up on the Tuesday after the Easter weekend. I have kept quiet about it. I cannot prove it. That's only an opinion. It's not a fact. But if I'm getting that impression, other people could be as well. Okay? I'm not Superman that does things that other people don't do. If I think that, others are thinking it as well. We've got a problem. We've got a big security service provider in the area that's making their name shit. And it needs to be addressed. So the end result is the control room got up on the groups, created a new group altogether, told everybody to join this group, got up on the anti-crime group, and the anti-crime group has got a simple rule. You don't talk on that group at all. You have something, whatever it is, suspicious activity, positive break-in, attempted break-in, I don't care what it is, even if it's a vehicle or somebody walking, I'm going to point something out on your group yesterday. Post it, and then be quiet. Following the meetings that I've had with Dari at that time, Beagle Watch, Help 24, subsequent to that, EC and ADT, even though I got a message about the ADT boards, and the guy said maybe we should tell all the ADT people on the group to go to Sub-Rosa or to go to Beagle or whatever, and I told the guy I'm not prepared to do that. But guess what? When ADT sat with me, I told ADT, like I'm telling CKRF, you guys are making your name shit. And in order to keep yourselves above board, listen to the heart of the community that you represent or service. And stop taking it out on me. And I told the area manager just that. I've got all of the security companies that are operational in this area up on the anti-crime group. And Sub-Rosa's left all the groups. Pooh, gone, missing. With one comment, they're not prepared to, what did they say? They're not prepared to engage me on a public forum. Within 30 minutes of that WhatsApp message, I receive an email from some name at Vodamail cancelling my services. I know it's Jake Kleinhans because that's the name at Vodamail or whatever. I wrote back, I said, on what grounds are you cancelling? Oh, we can give 30 days notice. And you are apparently unhappy with Sub-Rosa. And I read to that full stop and I thought, I wonder why. You guys are acting like a bunch of bloody idiots. That's why I'm unhappy. Now, remember, I've already asked for a meeting with management or the owner of Sub Rosa. It's been declined at this point on this level. And now on the personal level, I've got this attitude, but
what has this level got to do with our security?
Because the security of the area falls under the Disaster Management Act in times of a declared disaster.
Okay, so there's no declared disaster at the moment?
No, there isn't at all. But myself as a...
You're hoping for a disaster,
no,
so you can...
No. I'm not actually hoping for a disaster. We've got a disaster in our area at the moment. Okay, remember I referred to that collapse of the KZN mountain, and people flipped me upside down and I'm mad and I'm crazy. Okay? They don't know that there are 7 residential units that have been evacuated in Constantia Kloof. That particular property could have ended up with at least 50 dead had we had another 24 hours of rain on the 9th and 10th of December 2022. The only way that we got assistance in there was through my activation of my operations center and actually making contact with council or not. Are you on her group? No, you're not. I know you guys are not, because I've checked. You know, I don't know who the CKRF members are, but I'll be surprised if there's 5 CKRF members on her group. Your Bristow Street group, 0. You got 56 on the group, none on her group. Okay, wait a minute. So we've got a mountain that's collapsed here.
I contact Leah not when councillor not when I need something. We invited her to our first meeting when she became councillor. We invited her to our first meeting. She didn't pitch up.
No, Gary, that's not exactly true. We invited her to the meeting and she confirmed attendance.
Her first meeting, or when she first got appointed?
When she got appointed.
Because it was Amelia Vester before her.
That's right. Yes,
right.
To be quite honest, and this is my opinion, was even worse, because we had invited her to meeting after meeting and she wouldn't come.
Dude, do you know that it's taken me 6 months to get hold of Councillor Caleb Finn for a meeting?
Now,
do they confirm to you that they're going to have to come to the meeting?
Yes, and then they can't pitch because they called into this, they called into that. And Caleb's father, I know personally. Caleb's father is actually one of our radio amateurs. The only reasons he's not a registered cert volunteer is because he's with the Saitlanders.
But do they actually come back to you and say, listen, sorry,
no, nothing, zip, zilch, nothing. But you need to, it's the culture that we live in, but it is also the pressure that these guys are under. I sit here.
I'll agree with you there, Dan.
Tremendous. You know,
tremendous pressure.
3 o'clock in the morning, I sent Caleb a message.
I'll do you a favor. I'll get you a new councillor by the name of David Jews.
Which ward is he?
He was Florida. If you think the ones that not doing their job now, he was the worst.
Listen.
Yeah. No,
there's a whole issue behind that, but let me just come back now to where we are now with Jacques, okay? We go through this incident, the group gets broken away, the group gets created, I join the group. Next morning, Jacques himself puts a message out there. You don't need to be a Sub Rosa client to be on the group. Everybody in the area is welcome. The rules are basically a copy and paste of my rules on their group. But there's one exception. Only Sub Rosa staff are allowed on the group. The anti-crime group, I've got every other service provider on the group. All play nicely with each other. We've even got a jock where we all play nicely with each other. No fighting, no arguing, no bullshit, no nothing. But Sub Rosa's left. So I come back after this message, I put it out on the Constantia group. Now, in all honesty, come on. In all honesty, okay? Because of your association with Sub Rosa, you might be pro. But let's say, for example, you're not a Sub Rosa client. I think it's fair that you know, if you are on that group, You're free to join the group. That's your constitutional right. But you need to know that if you got shit and you put a message out on that group and you are with Beagle Watch or Dowdy or EC or Joe Blogs for all I care, don't expect them to respond. They're not allowed on the group. Oh shit, Gary, that made me persona non grata. Do you know that 3 weeks later, his lady pitches up here to come and fetch the panic pack? I looked at her. I've just submitted a week before 37-page complaint to Sierra. I've also written a letter to Sub-Rosa, Jacques Kleinhans personally, on an MCOM PDY Limited letterhead, placing him on notice that if I activate my panic button after the 30th of April and they do not respond, I will be laying charges against them. Because MCOM PDY Limited is the contracted party with Sub-Rosa, not Chad Milam.
But earlier you said that they're not obliged to. It's a best service.
Hold on a second. True, they are. But now I'm covering the point that Jacques Kleinhans is cancelling Chad Milam for Chad Milam's activities on a WhatsApp group. Now, what happened if you and I were directors of MCOM, and or the three of us, and suddenly I have to come to you and say, listen, because of the fact that Jacques Kleinhans is having a hissy fit about, us looking out for the school, we have to now spend more money to bring in another service provider. That's the only question that you need to think about. Don't answer it.
Look, there's a simple answer to it. I go shop at Spar, but for whatever reason, the last time I was in Spar, I caused havoc. I slammed the fridge door and I broke all the cokes or whatever the case may be. Next time I go there, they say, you're not allowed here.
That's you personally. That's you personally.
It's the same kind of...
If you know it isn't, that's you personally. If the three of us are directors of the company and I cause shit, there's no reason that you two must suffer the consequences.
No, what I'm saying is that if Jacques is unhappy with you or you are unhappy with Jacques, I think this is the way I'm understanding it, so you correct me if I'm wrong. You can give Jacques notice, but Jacques can't give you notice.
No, I can't give Jacques notice. I'm not his customer. MCOM can. Especially if the three of us are directors. Therefore, in order to cancel, we'd have to have a directors meeting. We'd have to have a resolution. It would have to be tabled. Resolution. Whole trip, yes, we cancel in Sub-Rosa. Then whoever the representative party is, even if it is me as a director, I can give him notice on behalf. Okay, leave it at that. It's still a minor. It's still a minor. I tell her, no, you haven't cancelled me. You're not taking the equipment. She leaves. An hour later, I'm in a Zoom meeting. Who's at my gate? Jacques Kleinhans. I've had residents ask me, why was Jacques Kleinhans carrying on like a bliksem outside my gate? Because his behavior was unbecoming. Eventually, I finished my meeting. He'd left. And I suddenly looked up, and it looked like he was ripping off my intercom. And I flew out there. But I was on a phone call at that time. And I went out with the phone in my hand. And I looked at Captain Jooste and I said, good afternoon. Captain, I'm telling you now, the only reason you're here is brought you to intimidate. That's where I drew the line with Sub-Rosa. And that's the next complaint of intimidation. My concern is, I've got nothing personal against Captain Jooste. And I don't want to burn him. You see now, why is my reputation being screwed over to protect Sub-Rosa? And in this case, an innocent party as far as I'm concerned, Captain Jooste, and the CKRF. That's where my problem lies. So, no, CKRF on the group, the Bristow Street group, has been a problem. The CKRF WhatsApp group, by your members going on the way that they did, and your own members have sent me the screenshots.
Okay.
So, here's where we are at the moment. As the CKRF is concerned, and this is a delicate one for both of you, but I told you about it and I need you to understand it. The CKRF is a required necessity on all three of my heads. Please, that must be clearly understood. Shit, he must be in Alberton. Okay, so the CKRF it's not a necessary evil. I despise that term. You guys are required on every single level. You guys are required.
Sorry, the signal is very bad, very bad.
If I was a CKRF paid up member, which in all honesty I will never be, because I need to remain neutral and impartial. That's the second point that needs to be made clear. The CKRF, as it stands at the moment, is in a legal dwang. When last did you have your last AGM? Okay, month?
September.
Okay, so let's just say 2020 for argument's sake, and it just covers the maybe. Okay, we just taking a point in time of reference. So September of 2021, your office as chairman expired legally. That is a serious problem, Gary.
Okay, so
you've got
the community in blue and all the things, the changes that they've had at the police station. They started off with the CPF and then the community in blue, and it changed to all these things. So all those guys that are there, if you go to Quellerina, Bruno, I don't know if you know Bruno.
Yeah, I've invited him to meetings.
He hasn't come.
He's actually had representatives. They're on a group with me.
Yeah. So all of these guys we've been keeping our particular areas, trying to keep it crime-free.
Are you talking from the RA or RF side? Because he's RA, if I'm not mistaken. Bruno.
Basically, they're all RFs as such, because the CPFs ended up with legal things in it, where we were actually advised by certain parties to change from a CPF. We always
to a residents association.
We always regarded ourselves as, even though we called ourselves residents, we always regarded ourselves as a CPF.
Okay, that gives me a that clarifies a couple of things, but whichever way you look at it, when you look at the formation, the legal formation, now this is where we start talking constitutional law. The CPFs have also got an association or memorandum of incorporation or whatever they want to call it, that in actual fact gives them legal persona in like manner with the RF. The RF is only a name. That's all it is. Legally, you are an association. Legally, as an association, you do not fall under the Companies Act. That is something that must be clearly understood. However, by common law practice, what the associations in South Africa, actually associations worldwide, have adopted the principles of the Companies Act and applied it within their own founding documentation. Not all of it, because some of it now goes off into a totally different tangent and all the rest of it, and you've got a government-regulated manner within which how you run your meetings, how many directors are required, your auditors are required, whereas an association, by definition, is a grouping of 3 or more unconnected persons who agree to providing a common purpose, goal, or whatever the case might be. That's what you are, an association. And the association's legal name, in your case, is Constantia Kloof Residence Forum. In John Baisley's case, it would be Constantia Kloof North Residents Against Crime. Okay, but then when you look at Honeydew CPF, they've got their own founding document. Florida CPF, being an ex-chairman, I'd love to read that in order to educate myself so that when I have further meetings with others, I can state I have seen, because at this moment I haven't. So I can't actually state what is in there. But I know what to look for within those particular agreements. Now, because of the fact that the CPFs are actually formed in terms of, I think it is the Police Services Act, an association is not. Where a non-profit company is formed in terms of the Companies Act, the Residents Forum or an association is not. And your constitution, the association's constitution, is generally called a constitution. You could have called it a memorandum of understanding or even a memorandum of incorporation, although MOI is more in terms of the Company Act. Okay, so your founding document is your law book, and it has to be written in the correct manner. And yes, I do have your constitution, and it's a shambles. It really is bad. So much so, as I said to you, Mervyn, and don't shoot the messenger. Seriously, as I said to you, this is a delicate subject that I have withheld speaking to others about. I've had 2 people come and see me, despite the accusations, despite the disrespect, despite being told to tell him to fuck off. Did you see that post?
No.
I've got it. Okay? That is discrediting me. And I'm protecting you at my expense, and I take exception to that. Let's go on to your MOI, your constitution. You got a problem with the constitution. There's no doubt about it, but you've got 2 other problems. Your Section 51 manual isn't available on your website. That is the Promotion of Access to Information Act. Every association, every website, every company, every business is supposed to have one, and you are supposed to have logged one with the Human Rights Commission. That makes it very difficult for me. If your emails worked, says the Microsoft system engineer on Exchange server, if I send you an email requesting your constitution, by law you're obligated to give it to me. Which is why, on the Constantia Kloof and Surrounds group, to piss you off, and you in particular, Mervyn, I said, guys, I want the constitution. I asked somebody to actually, I asked a couple of people to actually ask me why. This is how deliberate it got. Because I wanted to come back and tell them I want to stand for chairman. Just to fuck you guys off. Because I'm tired of, I put messages through, I put requests through, I found your number I didn't have. I'm just not getting any joy, and I'm just being disrespected. I'm being flipped upside down. I'm being attacked. No, enough is enough. I'm at the point of actually looking at laying charges against the CKRF and its members for libel on the one hand, and defamation of character on the other hand. That's how serious this is. I think it's time you and I as a chairman need to talk. Yeah, we are. So problem number 1, your constitution needs some reworking. Problem number 2, you've just put out a document and signed it as the chairman of the CKRF. You are misrepresenting the organization. You're not allowed to do that. You can't do it by law. You can't do it. Your term of office, what did we say, 2020, September 2021, expires then. Your CKRF is a ship with no captains at all. Your constitution requires 7 people minimum on a committee. By your own admission, only 3 of you are attending meetings. You are not properly constituted.
There are 7 on the committee.
Yeah, but attending a meeting for a quorum, if only 3 of you are pitching up.
The thing says that there has to be 4.
No, it doesn't. It says 50% plus 1.
Yeah, but anyway,
so 50,
these are technical things.
Yeah, so 50, yeah, it is a
yeah,
technical one. But 50 plus 1 is actually 4.5, and I always question who's the half.
Can we just deal with the constitution quickly, Jay? It started in 2003, as I've repeated over and over again. At the time when it started, it was kind of a generic constitution which went around. Some lawyer, I can't remember his name,
Darby,
whatever it is, wrote a constitution for the police forums as they were supposedly
Yeah,
going
you see,
to be
then
formed.
that's where the problem could have come in.
So everybody adopted
Sure.
basically that constitution. And that's what everybody.
And it wasn't modified for the association level.
Yeah, it never. So
Okay, not a problem.
Gary will be my witness.
Dude.
And the two guys that came to see you, and anybody else who's spoken to you, Margaret, everybody else.
No problem.
I have already written a new constitution.
Okay.
Which has been circulated to everybody on the committee and for comment.
Can I read it?
And to let the guys come back and say, listen, you've missed out this, because I'm not going to think of everything. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a company law expert or whatever.
No problem.
So and you know, in our original one, for instance, we've stressed the point now several times, we dealt with safety. Safety has now gone, I don't want to say away, but when we first had our AGM, we had it at the Rainbow Radio down there by the police station. We had over 200 people there. The last AGM, we had 30 people, including the committee, which was 10 at that time, because 2 or 3 of the guys have subsequently passed away. Jacques and his wife, Captain Jooste, Amelia Bester, and those 2 guys.
Rios was the chairman of the Florida.
So we had about 10 people.
Was that the AGM?
Yeah.
Okay, is Jacques a paid up member?
Yes. No, he's not.
Then why is he at the AGM?
Jacques was there he's there as a
the
guest.
security company.
He gives a security report.
But why has that been done at an AGM? That's inappropriate.
It's what we do is
seriously.
No, hang on.
No, I can understand where you guys are coming from, and I'll hear you on it.
He's the security company,
but not at an AGM.
We didn't only have Jacques there. ADT or one of the other guys.
ADT was there.
I think it was ADT.
I wasn't even going to go down that route. All I'm saying, it wasn't the right platform to have Jacques Kleinhans or even Captain Jooste at. It's an annual general meeting. No,
Captain Jooste is the representative.
That's supposed to be a closed meeting.
That time was the representative. He gives a crime report to say what they
general meetings on a month-to-month basis is the right platform, not an AGM, gents.
Well,
the annual general meeting is a closed meeting.
The Colonel Tsotseki. Maybe we must take it up with Colonel Tsotseki because he came to one of our meetings.
No, it's fine. If it's by invite, I can understand they come. But what I'm trying to say is that from an association's perspective,
for the community.
But you do that at a general meeting. An annual general meeting is an annual general meeting for the benefit of the paid up members. And it is there with very specific business.
Sorry, it's for the general paid up members.
Correct.
Okay.
Not outsiders. It's the same as the invites that were put out.
Right.
And unfortunately, Margie was put into a predicament. Margie didn't want to be in the predicament. Let me tell you, if you need somebody to organize shit, Margie is the person to do it.
I've known her for a long time, yes.
I've known her for 40 years, and I appointed her as operations room manager.
Yes.
Okay, my ops officer.
Yeah.
Margie used to do all of my sourcing and organizing during all of my operations, including the 2 weeks that I ran Natal Spruit Hospital.
Yeah.
Margie's the only woman I know that can bring in 400 volunteers to, in actual fact, run a hospital. She's brilliant.
How Margie got involved with the CKRF just recently, and she'll tell you if she, and I'm not suggesting that she's dishonest, there was a lot of nonsense going around and negativity and all that nonsense.
I know.
And we just didn't have the facility to be able to get back to people. So one morning, Margie posted something, and I phoned her and I said, Margie, listen, what is this about? And she started raising her voice, and I raised my voice a little bit, and then I said, Margie, let's cut it there. Why? I'm going to challenge you. Come along to the CKRF and come along and be a liaison between us and the community.
She told me that you invited her.
I didn't invite her. I challenged her.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think, Margie can be polite until she gets the mooring. I know. Margie used to, believe it or not, Margie used to walk into my office every morning and come plait my hair.
You know, a lot of people are going to say to you, Margie's a rubbish, a waste of time. nonsense
No,
maker,
he's
troublemaker, whatever the case may be.
Margie
My
doesn't take
view of
cover.
Margie is quite simple. She calls a spade a spade. Finished. There's no bringing out the color paint and making it something into a diamond jewelry or anything like that. If she likes it, she'll tell you. If she doesn't like it, she'll tell you as well.
Okay, so your constitution needs work, but there's an
It's
additional
obvious.
problem that you've got. You have not registered with SARS as a taxpayer and have therefore subjected your membership base to tax liability going back to 2012. That's a serious
I
problem.
know nothing about that. They can speak to my financial.
Well, actually, it's your members that should have brought it to the attention of the committee in 2012 already. The Income Tax Act was changed whereby all associations had to, in actual fact, register for tax purposes, but there was an additional step. They had to apply to the tax exemption unit for partial tax exemption. Another problem that I got, and I'm giving you the heads up, I'm not cucking you out, but I'm telling you guys are wrong. You cannot refer to yourself as a non-profit organization at all.
What you should have put in was voluntary, and that's in the new.
No, you should have said that in terms of what the Income Tax Act requires. You can read it on my.
You see, you taking the Tax Act now 2012. What we should have put in the initial constitution is that it's a voluntary association for members to join.
No, it's not. It's a voluntary association as far as your opening statement is concerned. But in terms of the manner and method within which you would operate in a non-profit manner. You're not declaring yourself an organization because an NPO or non-profit organization is formed in terms of the Non-Profit Organization Act, which is also a voluntary registration. NGOs, non-profit companies, businesses, the local rugby club can register as an NPO. What your claim to fame in the Constitution is, you would not qualify for the NPO status. You would also not qualify for the public benefit organization status in terms of Section 30.1, I think, is where the recreational clubs, that's where you would fall under, would in actual fact apply for partial tax exemption, but you would not be able to apply for Section 18A exemption, whereby you can issue Section 18A certificates, correct, or receipts as they are named. The only thing is the PBO has to be certified. That's where the word certificate comes in. PBO does not necessarily have to be audited unless the members, you are not the CKRF, and nor you. The CKRF are the paid up members. They are the ones that ultimately at the end of the day will decide whether the association, recreation club should be audited or not, and then that gets included in the Constitution. Where you guys are at the moment, I know that you were looking at an AGM next month, but I can tell you what, the longer you wait, the longer things can get worse. You were the last elected chairman, correct?
Yeah.
You have a fiduciary responsibility to dissolve the current committee as it stands with immediate effect. You see, what is happening here is actually criminal at this stage, and I'm also now a party to it. The correct manner, if you weren't there, whoever vice chairman was last elected, whoever last treasurer in succession, that person would in actual fact, there's been an armed robbery in Krugersdorp, and I still want to come back to that. You guys have to in actual fact dissolve your committee with immediate effect. I'm not talking about dissolution of the CKRF. It's a very big difference. As the chairman, you have a legal responsibility to your members and state, guys, we've actually been operating inappropriately. You don't need to use the words criminal. But I can tell you now that some arsehole could in actual fact, let me put it to you this way, I could have been that arsehole if I really got annoyed enough as a CKRF paid up member. And I could have laid charges against the committee and the RF. because the Constitution has to stipulate that the RF can sue and be sued. Those are some key words that have to appear within your association constitution, which now that you're saying, you know, coming or being drawn or converting from a type of CPF structure, that wording might not have been there because now you're dealing with the Police Services Act and it's different wording and shit.
Is that in those days, it was like a fresh thing that came up.
Regardless, it's moving forward. That's where we are.
Just this is because this is quite interesting that I must convey this message, because there's a whole lot of guys at Florida police stations.
And they know nothing about constitutional law.
They know nothing about constitution. So all of those guys are running illegal.
No, not necessarily. You see, which guys are you referring to? CPF members or residents?
Or other residents associations.
All the residents. There's Clear Off, there's AfriForum is there. There's a whole lot of different places. There's Delray, Discovery, John Gaffney is in there. Yeah. You see, there's a whole lot of those guys. So this is going to create serious complications there at the police stations.
You see, you wonder why I pulled my hair.
Yeah.
I took this challenge up with the South African Radio League.
So, yeah.
I actually put it in. I wrote an entire opinion document, and I tabled a motion for specific things to be changed within the constitution of the South African Radio League, which I was shot down on. However, 4 years later, after the legal representatives actually got their heads together, all of the amateur radio clubs have had to register as well. Yes, this is a very, very serious situation. And the danger is, like, for example, in your constitution, you state that the membership will be based on a donation. Can't do that. Donation is a different financial category to membership fees. Now, donations, which you guys probably also don't know about, there's a thing called the Donations Act. And the Donations Act stipulates that if you donate money to you, and you are not family, you have to pay the tax. And if you don't pay the tax at 20% up to a certain amount and 28% of another amount, then you are legally and jointly liable for the payment of that tax. However, as an association, in terms of the Income Tax Act, Section 30, whatever it is, what will happen is you apply to the TEU, you get partial tax exemption, and what they say is, okay, membership fees, you don't pay tax on.
But all the invoices that have been issued where the monies are paid have all been issued on the basis of membership fees.
That's fine. And as long as your financial records put it under membership fees, that's also fine and not as a donation. Because the minute that you have listed 1 cent under donation and SARS investigates that one and they ask who made the donation, that person and you are going to pay tax on 1 cent plus penalties, going back, believe it or not, to 2012. Then donations are also partially tax exempted. As an association, you might decide to buy notepads and sell them. In terms of the new Income Tax Act, you can do that on condition you don't compete with Spar across the road. So you can get it at 10 Rand and they can sell it at 14 Rand. You can't sell it at 13 Rand. You've got to sell it at 14 Rand or more so that you don't compete with Spar. And those sales, depending on what it is you are selling, might be tax exempt. There's a whole category that they will, in actual fact, expect you to pay money on. Well, that there is another thing. I mean, another issue that I've got that is of concern, and again, it's not a bitch, it's not an attack on the CKRF. One of the things that is of major concern, some people have said to me, you guys are organizing cameras for the area. Are you doing that in the CKRF name? Now, just hear me out here, because I need the information in order to arrive at a conclusion. Are you purchasing and installing camera equipment in the name of the CKRF? In other words, is the camera equipment a part of your asset list? So it's your asset. And the purpose of the cameras that are being put up are there for security purposes. Are you CKRF registered? You need to be.
For the cameras.
Oh, yes, because you're providing a security service. You see what I do on the anti-crime group, I'm not providing a service.
So the camera on your gate, you need to be...
No, because that's my private property. But if the CKRF comes and puts it at my gate, in
your property,
that's fine. It's still your asset as a CKRF. It's not my asset. All I've done is I've made provision for the land where it is put on. That's why Vumacam initially had such a problem with the council.
Vumacam, we tried to use the Vumacam. It was just too expensive. And they
it is. It's a serious problem, which is why I have this exception with regards to Jacques Kleinhans's attitude. The concept is brilliant. The concept is in line with your sole and principal object to reduce crime in the area. If I just sum it up into a few words, you've got a whole list of them, like I've got preparing and training and awareness. Okay, but just the primary function, if we're looking at the cameras, because it's your asset as CKRF, you need to have CKRF registration because you are providing a security service. The next question that comes in.
Sorry, but you're saying then, but if it's on private property, we still supply?
Yeah, because it's your asset.
Okay.
If I buy it,
if I said to Mervyn, right, we give you that camera, and that's your camera put out, but in your property, then it's not our asset.
That's fine. Then I'm not going to have Sub Rosa watch my camera. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So it's not going to. You're not going to achieve anything on that one. And then you've got an additional problem. I leave, I take the camera, it's my property.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that you guys need to consider and weigh up and strike a balance on, even though you might write off the asset within the first 12 months, because now we can write off virtually our assets within the first year. It's still your asset. It is still part of the CKRF members' property. That if the CKRF were to take a decision to dissolve, the dissolution clause, totally different. I'll give you the proper one, the SARS approved one. You can use the NGOs. It's a classic example. It's the official SARS letter. The only thing you're going to change is the public benefit organization to a recreational club. That's all. You don't need to include the section number at all. You just need to stipulate that, you know, these are the clauses. They've got, I think, 12 different clauses that have to be in your constitution. Because when you apply for partial tax exemption, you need 3 non-connected members to be fiduciary members. That means any expenses out of line, those 3 members are liable criminally. That's how serious SARS has gotten, and government has gotten with associations, right down to fucking knitting clubs. Okay, this is not a joke. Again, as a director to or as a chairman to a chairman, as somebody that's come out of this to a chairman, in order to benefit the CKRF, which is not what I'm against, I'm for. I need this conversation with you. That's why I asked for 2 committee members in my original letter on the NGO side. But I must admit, I was looking at that from the Disaster Management Act, from the Disaster Risk Reduction. I hadn't even gone into your constitution and purpose. That only swung around when Kleinhans implicated you. And that is something that's got to be dealt with. In addition to that, that relationship as far as your constitution is concerned, as a paid up member, I would table a motion to ensure that annually the Security Service Provider Association, whatever you want to call it, a partnership is not a good idea. A partnership is not a good idea at all. A contract, you can get away with a contract. but it's got to expire at the end of the financial year or at the next AGM, like your whenever. Okay, that's up to the members to decide dates, times, whatever. I can't dictate that because it's got to be tabled. They got to discuss it, thrash it out, get an understanding, and say, okay, that's the cut-off time. Because now you guys have gone against the Competition Act. You're in violation of the Competition Act by having the so-called whatever with Sub Rosa. Yes, I know you said people have come, they don't want to work here, they don't want to work there. You just listen to that. This has been going on for a while. This is why these other companies don't want to work with Jacques Kleinhans.
Yeah, look,
it's a problem. Okay, and it's a reflection. And I'm saying to the two of you as a CKRF, and if I were to talk to your membership base, I would tell them the exact same thing. You guys are needed. You are required. In terms of the Disaster Management Act, you are required. Just in terms of pure and simple, and don't call it emotional blackmail, humanity, you guys are required. You said safety, sort of gone out of the wayside. Yeah, you know, safety and security, that's a term that is very quickly mixed up and everything else. But safety is totally different to security, yet they are both the same. Funny enough, they are. The problem is, and I've asked a couple of people already, if we hit the point tomorrow of civil unrest, look, when I sat with the International Committee of the Red Cross, the League of Red Cross Societies, various government officials, including Ramaphosa, Nelson Mandela, we were planning for civil war in 1987, 88, 89. That's where our level of planning was, from a Red Cross perspective, on the international Red Cross movement level. That is why we had to bail out on this 1992 and 1994 general election.
So you're still part of that you're talking about now.
Of the Red Cross?
Yeah.
Indirectly, yes. I'm not a paid-up member, but indirectly.
Do you still have, let's say, contact with them?
Absolutely.
What's their view on civil war now?
1,000 times higher than it was then. Okay, that's how bad things are at the moment. Let's just, you know, I said to you, 2015, they brought in civil unrest. I've been firebombed, tear gassed, shot at. I've been at several of the bombs, literally a block away. I've had to pull glass out of my hair, my mouth, all kinds of shit during what happened at that time. I also worked for Executive Communications on the 32nd floor, running the medical board. Taxi wars and things like that. I mean, I discovered a letter signed by Henk van Els, or at least referencing Henk van Els, signed by the city, the town clerk of Joburg, for my work at Baragwanath in 1985. We were planning for war today. It's yeah. My question to you on this level would have been, what are you doing for that? You are concerned about the security. Princess Squattercan decide to march on Constantia Kloof. No, I want to swing this around. I want you guys to hear this out. Then at least I'll give you the overall picture without going into this in much depth, but believe you me, the integration is there. Bristow Street Group, attitude. It's a bitch group. That's all it is. Example, yesterday. Oh, I had inspectors there by my house and blah, 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 blah. And then along comes the hand job. No, but the garden looks excellent. I'm sitting thinking, how many of these people on this group are CKRF? You having a hissy fit because Sub Rosa and SAPS isn't in my assessment, and now you're upset, and the rest of your group and all the rest of it, and we've got all this animosity, and here's what I'm thinking yesterday, just yesterday. No, I'm not going to do it now. I don't feel like getting annoyed. Eventually, I crawl in a bed. It's about 11 o'clock at night. I've got the other tablet up. I thought, no, let's go and have a look and see how many of the Bristow Street Group members are on the anti-crime group. I think there's 5 of 56. Okay, let's go and have a look and see how many are on Councillor Lott's group. I can't find one. How do I know that? Because I am statistically inclined. I need to know who I'm dealing with, what I'm dealing with, and how I'm dealing with. I opened up during the 58-hour shutdown one of my other disaster relief groups on a city-wide basis in order to disseminate water-related information to the city. I had over 1,000 people joining and leaving that group over that period of time. We disseminated over 3,500 messages in a 7-day period. We had none of the Bristow Street bullshit or any of the other groups bullshit. People joined the group. I sent the question after 10, 20 people joined. If you guys need an info pack, private message me, I'll send it to you. I sent out 285 info packs consisting of about 30 documents to bring every new member to the group up to speed from day one to the time that they joined in terms of the overall communication that had been disseminated by the city of Joburg, by Joburg Water. So much so that I brought on several of the councillors throughout the wards to the group, where on their own groups, they shut down all water-related communications, like Councillor Knott's escalation group. She told them, we're not discussing it here, join this group. She would send me messages at 11 o'clock at night, Chad, this person's pissing me off, I've sent them to your group. Cool, dear, no problem, thanks. They join the group, they get the information pack, they read the shit, whatever. Somebody then says, listen, anybody know when we're getting water? Claremont was a terrible situation. It turns out there's a little bit of a racialistic aspect there. Claremont, they never supplied water to Claremont at all. I even tried to get Red Cross involved. You know what I got out of the Red Cross? My good connection, the Joburg manager, who I trained up as a storeman, old Nathan Bunda. Chad, you're joking. I said, what do you mean? Kelly, how can you tell me I'm joking? Do you know me ever to joke when it comes to this shit? He says, man, the people that need to help are the people that are in need of help. Do you think they're going to come out and help you at this moment in time? Oh, crap. Thank you, Nathan. You've explained it all.
Just to go back to your Bristow Street group from yesterday. Those guys were the gardens. Now that, in all sense of investigation that we can have done so far, it was criminal.
What? The guys at the gate?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I was going to go.
We actually came to, we've spoken to planning and that here at the council, and they have nobody that goes out.
Yeah, but that's not where the problem comes in. You know, I was being facetious. Here comes the hand job. You know what? I still thought, you know, even my next door neighbor, legally, bylaws, we're not allowed to work on the pavement, but even my neighbor's done it.
He's caged it off.
Okay, he's caged it off completely, total. I mean, shit, if you want to get to his bloody lilac or whatever he's got there, you've got to get through his electric fence, which causes so much shit on my HF communication, it's unreal. And I thought that that's not the point. That's not where my thought level is, guys. My thought level is, why was that guy not on the anti-crime group? And when they arrived at the gate, by the way, we had a Joburg City Power guy pitch up at a gate, yeah, a couple of months back. And the message went out on the anti-crime group and the control room, Sub Rosa's control room, sent 3-4 additional City Power IDs. No explanation. So I still asked the question, are these legitimate IDs or false IDs? I don't get a reply. So the resident has posted one that they've taken, and Sub Rosa has given 4 extras. 5 different people. What? 10 minutes later, telephone call, Chad. Do you know if Sub Rosa is actually getting panic buttons, signals? I said, no, I don't know why. Kim is hitting a panic button. We haven't seen Sub Rosa yet at all. Meantime, on the group, I know Beagle's on the way. Help 24 is already floating around on the outside, ready to, the TRUs ready to bounce. No sub-rosa. So I said, now hold on a second. Let me phone them. So I phoned the control room. Guys, are you getting the, the panic signal from this client of yours, and I'll give the address? No, we're not. I said, well, look, they're having a problem. They posted that image. Yeah, but I posted other images. I said, yeah, and I asked the question, are they legit? Do I tell Beagle and the rest of the guys arrest the whole bloody lot? Or, just ignore them? Just give me a minute. Yeah, the attitude there sucks, China. So, yeah, no, Sub-Rosa's going to go. Guy stays on the phone. He happens to be a guy, paraplegic. I said to him, by the way, where are you? He says, I'm in my vehicle in the garage. Kim is standing in the driveway between us and the guy at the gate. I thought, yeah, dude, you really got yourself organized. You're not going to get caught in that house. You're going to ram the shit out of that gate and that car. At least you are ready. You are prepared. Here's the planning. Well done, boy. He's older than me. I can't call him boy. So anyway, think everything is over. 20 minutes later, Jesus, did the control room phone and cut me out from a dizzy height. Why? You see now, I'm looking at this incident yesterday, and I'm thinking now, why is that guy not on the anti-crime group? And I'll tell you why. There is a general consensus amongst the CKRF members not to join the other groups. I don't know where it comes from. I cannot tell you. I'm not going to make accusations. But very few of your CKRF members are actually participating in the anti-crime group. In addition to that, during the Joburg water crisis, which it was, none of your members, and the Bristow Street group in particular, never came up there at all. Yet I'm watching the messages on the Bristow Street group, how everybody's bitching about the water, this, that, and everything else. We've got the information on the Disaster Relief Cert Water Crisis Relief WhatsApp group. I've got councillors throughout the city there that are posting information, keeping the community informed. I've got other residents associations members there. And somebody comes up and says, listen, I've got this and this problem. It's 11 o'clock at night. Emergency Control SA rushed out to supply water for the special needs child in Witpoortjie. All she needed was 15 liters of water to make it through to the next morning. Other people, listen, do you know if the tanker at this location has got water? Can I go down there? Somebody else, wait, I'll take a drive. I'll let you know shortly. Nothing. That's where the dissemination of info comes. That's where CKRFs are needed.
Okay, so if I can just, with all this stuff now, it's opened up a whole lot of things here. My feeling when we started the CKRF, we had these serious crimes and a lot of petty crimes. Jumping over the wall, stealing garden furniture, catch a guy running across on Deckers Road with a TV set and a wheelbarrow and things like that. So we decided we're going to stop the crime. We weren't interested in the gardens and all the other stuff. We didn't want to know about, there wasn't water problems in those days. Everything was working.
Like the city engineer, the Eskom engineer said, John, that we've never had a total blackout in 1,000 years. And I thought, you silly bitch, we haven't had load shedding in 1,000 years either.
But so my mandate as the CKRF is we look at crime, anything that's related with crime. So we even at one stage, I think we said to people, start your own groups, your own street groups. Or
we even had our own patrols.
We used to do
But
patrol.
even there, you're not allowed to patrol. You're not Sierra registered.
Well, those days,
under the CPF, maybe.
Those days, Soup Lane came in the car, my car, with me to patrol.
Yeah, that was then.
That was then. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then there was that guy that was shot, and suddenly the insurance company said, no, we're not paying.
And then also we got another problem, is one of our guys went out and beat some guy up on the side of the road. That was his name. He was a cowboy. So that caused a bit of grief. That guy went and laid charges. But I got arrested for having a yellow light on my Hyundai Getz. Phone shoot Lang. I said, there's the metro guys have arrested me. He said, let me speak to them. Because nobody knew what was going on those days. So we went in a direction.
No rules and regulations.
Yeah, I know, we didn't have it.
We've got this thing. So that has been our mandate. So I don't know about anybody's gardens. I don't look at all the messages and all the stuff that comes up on all the other groups.
But now things have changed.
Things have changed. So maybe we've got to look at the thing differently.
And adjust
like
yourselves.
You're saying, is put the thing. So
Correct.
You've got all the stuff. You've got all the knowledge from what I can see. I don't have any knowledge of this whole system. Mervin's a financial guy. He gives us financial advice. Terry gives us engineering advice. He's an electrical engineer. He can tell us what's going on with the load shedding and things like that. So what you need to do is tell us, right, this is how you must, what you suggest to us.
No, can't do that. Can't do that. I'm going to stop you there and tell you I can't. It's up to your members, your paid up members that need to tell you. Okay, now I'm going to be open and honest with you. I know where you're going. I can see that suddenly now there's a shift. There's a shift and an understanding has been created. Whether you were right, whether you were wrong, how you did it in the past, it's irrelevant at this stage. Yeah. It's a question of where do you go to from now. Now you know the background to everything. You understand the frustration. You know that there's going to be some kickback as a result of all of this. Fine. Let's put it one side and now let's look here. Here's where you go. As I said, you need to give your members, like now, notice and call an extraordinary meeting of your paid up members and notify them that you are not officially representing them and they have to select a new committee. That is the objective of that particular extraordinary meeting, to select or to elect a committee, even if it is just a committee of 5, an interim committee for now, in order to address the shortfalls and shortcomings of the last couple of years, like, for example, a rewrite of the Constitution, because it is in that rewrite that you are now going to define your sole and principal object or objective as we knew it. I don't know why the term, the phrase has moved from objective to object. And where you would have had like crime and patrolling and whatever else, you can now, in actual fact, as a group of paid up members, establish the correct term and purpose for the association, whatever you call it. As I said to Mervin yesterday, if I was a paid up member and there was none of this shit and what have you, today I would table a motion for the change of your name from Constantia Kloof Residence Forum, because you don't represent Constantia Kloof. And I'll tell you what, you got Constantia Kloof across the road there that's been excluded. It's understandable that the rich...
I don't fall under Constantia Kloof either.
Where are you?
Florida Hills.
Right, but your membership has said that you will extend it over into that area. And that's why, yes, you're right.
The road is the boundary. And on this side...
And you're just outside of it. And that is why the name, that would have been my second reason. Because I know that your boundary actually goes into other suburbs. Do you know what a nightmare it was to do the demographics on Constantia Kloof? In taking into account CKRF, CKN, and the non-existent, non-represented portion across the road, even if it is, I think, only 20 to 30 houses. I don't know. I didn't look at the demographics.
Where does Cliffendale start?
Oh, no, Cliffendale starts... yeah, Veronica...
talking about is this little area over here.
Next to the flats.
Oh, next to the okay, yes.
There's a portion there, like Veronica... Yeah, Veronica... I think Veronica is actually divided into Cliffendale and Constantia Kloof halfway.
I actually spoke to Bernard Carroll one day. He said they take charge of it.
You see, a lot of the guys are doing that because it's easier to work within the main road boundaries. It does make a lot of sense. You know, if I have to do an evacuation plan for this area, and I state that Constantia Cliff is going to have to evacuate northbound on Golf Club Terrace, these guys are going to have apoplexy because I can't get them out. They're going to think of it as Constantia Cliff.
The thing, as I said to you yesterday, Jed, is we're operating under different policing authorities, let's call it. And that was because of the safety and all that.